Okay, I have 3:30. This is the February 22nd, 2022 Board of Waterworks Trustees Board meeting. It is 3:30. So we have a consent agenda today that consists of the minutes of the January 25th, 2022 Board of Waterworks Trustees meeting, the minutes of the February 1st, 2022 Board of Waterworks Trustees meeting, the minutes for the February 3rd, 2022 Board of Waterworks Trustees meeting, and the minutes of the February 8th, 2022 Board of Waterworks Trustees meeting. We also have financial statements, a list of payments for January 2022, a summary of CEO approved expenditures in excess of $20,000, and the scheduling of our next meeting date for March 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
And I have a second. Any comments or questions or anything to add, Ted, board?
Nothing from me, Graham.
All right. I'm hearing none. I'll ask Michelle to record the vote.
Ashburn,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Moines.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. The next item on our agenda is something we're going to have for the forthcoming months. Our first item in section 3 is going to be a receive and file a 28E on regional governance, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's the wish of the board to have a public comment period at the beginning of each of our regularly scheduled board meetings to allow members of the public to address the board on regional governance. We generally have a public comment period, and we will continue to do that. And so at this time, I will invite anyone who is here who would like to address the board on regional governance or any other matter. Michelle, is there anybody that has indicated to you they'd like to speak today?
No, there's no one in attendance and I've received no notification.
All right. Well, if someone's online here, now is your chance to raise your hand. All right, not seeing anyone, we'll move into item 3A. And item 3A, and I think what I'll do here is explain it just a little bit and then seek a motion and then have Ted and the rest of the board comment on it. As most people know, our board has been working diligently over the last few months to draft a 28E, 28F agreement, the agreement that would form Central Iowa Waterworks, a regional water production entity. And those months of work stemmed out of years of work working with entities throughout the region to think about the best way to form a regional governance structure. And it has been a long process. Many people have contributed to this. And what I'm seeking today is a motion to receive and file the draft Central Iowa Waterworks 28E, 28F agreement with an understanding that this is a draft. We are sending this out today for public comment, for comments from potential signatories of this document and others. We expect there'll be discussion and comments on this for a number of months. Our receiving and filing of this 28E and 28F today is not our board, not this board's saying that we are signing this document and we're ready to go. But it is saying that we're putting out our best foot forward here. We're putting out a document here that we think encapsulates the outcomes document that was worked on for many months, and even before that, the many months of discussion that went on throughout this discussion. So the motion is to receive and file a draft and start a process of public discussion both within Des Moines and within the region. So is there a motion to receive and file the draft 28E, 28F agreement?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
With that, Ted, I'll turn it over to you and then ask the board to comment as they wish.
Graham, I think you did a nice job kind of outlining where we are today. I just want to emphasize that Today, we've reached a real milestone in this journey towards creating a regional governance entity. In January, our board passed a resolution in support of developing this agreement. In January, both Urbandale Water Utility and West Des Moines Waterworks passed a similar motion. And now in February, the city of Waukee, the city council, and the city of Ankeny have both passed similar resolutions. So we're on the path. We've reached a milestone. We have a draft agreement that we'd like to share for review and comment, as you said. And I think I'll leave it at that, Graham, along with everything that you already shared.
Anybody else like to comment? Joel, you're on my screen, so I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah, Graham, I'd be happy to. I'd kind of echo your comments that it's important to note that today's proposal is just a proposal. It's another starting line, one of many starting lines we've hit so far. And next steps include sharing the 2080 and supporting documents with the regional communities and the public at large. And as I understand, the coming months will hold several public information sessions where individuals can ask questions and leave comments. So a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that we'll bring this to a conclusion yet this year. I'd also take a minute to thank those who have been, I think, most involved with bringing this proposal to this point. Our CEO, Ted Corrigan, our CFO, Amy Kaler, our legal counsel, Rick Malm, and board members, Diane Munns and Sue Hubbard, particularly. A number of board members have been involved, but Diane and Sue have worked for months, countless hours, developing and negotiating this proposal. So huge thank you to all of you. I think it's maybe worth taking a minute to talk about the why. A lot of energy has been put into it, and so why are we doing this? And as has been noted, Des Moines has been a regional entity since 1934 in some ways. That's when the utility began selling water to the suburban communities. And today, Des Moines Waterworks sells water to 20-some communities in the region. So we're already a regional water system. But if this region were to fracture and various cities would break off and build their own drinking water systems, water rates would increase for everyone. And so the goal is to strengthen our regional ties and fortify our regional water system. Our drinking water system is more affordable, more resilient, and more sustainable as a regional system. So this proposal would strengthen the existing regional partnerships, allow for shared management, and ensure fair distribution of costs. So I'm excited that it's on the table today, and excited to move forward. I'll get off my soapbox and let some other board members comment.
I like your soapbox. Thanks, Joel. Who's next? Sue?
Graham, thank you, first of all, to you for your leadership in bringing all of us together on this and all of the ideas. I shared with Graham yesterday when we were visiting that, I really appreciate how he has listened to every one of our board members. And I think that's why we have this document coming forward that we do. So thank you, Graham. There are a lot of leaders in our region that, just like Joel mentioned, I want to make sure that we thank. When we started this process, Mayor Steve Gear, who now has stepped into the role of former Mayor Steve Gear, but he really led the charge. And at that time, we really weren't sure how this was all going to come together. That had to be the toughest job in the room. But to him, I'm so grateful that he kicked it off and started the work. We have another mayor who is no longer mayor, but my gosh, he put his heart and soul into it from Ankeny, and that's Gary Lorenz. And he would, he was leading the charge at every meeting, wanting all of the communities to come together and say that they were for this. And his energy and enthusiasm, and he'd take our calls on anytime we would call or want to go out and visit with them. And, you know, Mayor Andlewick from West Des Moines, how many meetings did he host for us, Ted? You know, right there in their city council chambers when we'd meet at 7 a.m. and go over all of the details. And then I think back to when I first came on the board, E.J. Giovanetti and Mayor Scott Cersina. I met them at Caribou and they said, we've got to make this happen. And so those two individuals, you know, have been in this fight all along. But every mayor, Mayor Paula Dierenfeld, you know, she would meet with us. She wanted to know the details behind it. And a newer mayor, Mayor Courtney Clark, I remember when Diane and I went out with Ted and Amy and we met with her, and, you know, so sharp and understood the issue and asked the right questions, and has been there from the beginning. So, you know, and I just want to say the late Louise Moon, who was a board member along with, well, prior to all of us. And when I first went on the board, she said, you've got to find a way to make this regionalization happen. It's the best thing for Des Moines and it's the best thing for our community. So great job, Ted, in leading us there, and Graham for your leadership. And I'm so happy that we're going to be able to receive and file this today as a board.
Thanks, Sue. Diane?
Yeah, I want to do a couple thank yous too as we go on. There's so many people who have been involved in this. When I came on the board of trustees, I can't even remember how many years ago it was now. I thought, how do we keep them all straight? There's so many people involved. I want to particularly thank Jody Smith and John Thune from West Des Moines, and Urbandale for their leadership on those two boards and spending all the time on the micro group to come out with the outcomes document. I think they were very instrumental, and the CEOs of West Des Moines and Urbandale, also just really important to this process. And I think Joel mentioned our team. I want to include John Landy in that because I know that he picked up different pieces of this. So I wanted to talk for just a second about the process. We had the outcomes paper. Again, that was the micro groups product that was important here. Next, the resolutions, and we've now had a number of community pass the resolution. I think the resolution is a really important part of this process, and even though we now have a 2080 28F, I think it's important that communities go through the process of passing the resolution. It really brings them to the table in good faith, and we know that they've considered, do we want to be a part of this, or do we want to sit back maybe and continue to be a wholesale customer? If you want to be a part of this, I think you need to pass that resolution, to come to the table and negotiate the 2080. The 2080, as we all know, and we've told people, the resolution, the outcomes paper, none of that. Those are all preliminary steps, but it will be the signing of the 28E that is the NF, that those legal documents that will make this a reality. So that's very important. It includes the guts of the agreement, and there's a lot of detail in there. And finally, I think we've all talked about it. Somebody needed to put it on the table, and that's what we did. But it is a draft, and we invite others to take a look at it and see if they agree with it or see if we missed anything. So we took the first step. It had to be done. It's now been done. I think you'll see from the length of it, that it is a bulky document. So now we begin, this is the document that when we sign it, will be off and running. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of this whole process.
Thanks, Diane. And I want to come back to the process, especially about those resolutions, but I'm going to let Andrea speak first.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words, but I don't think that there is anything that I can say, as well as my fellow trustees here, everything from the importance of the why, acknowledging the process and acknowledging all of the leaders that played a role in getting us to this point. You know, this effort started long before I joined the board, and I'm just in awe of the ability for us to get to this point, and all of the hard work and countless hours that went into it. And I'm thankful I got to be a part of the process, even if it was kind of on the back end of it. You know, we're at a very exciting point in this journey. And I truly appreciate those leaders that have gotten us here, many that have been identified by Sue and Diane and Joel and others, and those that haven't been identified but have put in just as much hard work and brought their talents and time to the table as well. You know, and I also want to acknowledge, like many have said, that this is a draft, and there's a lot of work still yet to be done. So I want to give my appreciation to those leaders that are about to step up, that maybe haven't been involved yet, but they're about to be pulled in to get us to the finish line, to that first gavel in of Central Iowa Waterworks. So more work to be done, but I'm really astounded and happy that we're at this point.
Thanks. And Diane, I think you brought up a really key point that I want to make sure that we discuss, and that is that kind of the process going forward. And that is we're putting out this 2080F today for people to think about and analyze and discuss. And the process going forward is one of discussion, but we need to do it as equals. I think that first step of each community passing the resolution is very important, because that shows that they're committed to signing on regionalization and that they're joining the discussion in good faith. So I look forward to all the communities in the region passing those resolutions as soon as possible. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, Diane, because I think that's an important step. And I know Ted and the staff, and there'll be plenty of time for him to go through this. He can do it today, but he can do it later too, about that process of going through a comment period where in a very public way, each community has an opportunity to comment and raise questions. And we have an opportunity to answer those, both, as I say, between communities, but also between Des Moines Waterworks and our ratepayers. Joel mentioned the fact that we're going to have a series of meetings and public meetings, and that's very important for people to come and better understand this document. All of those will be laid out in the coming days as well. And we expect to go through this and this to be a lengthy process. We don't expect to sign a document probably until fall. These discussions will go on for the next few months within and between communities and between our ratepayers. And we want everybody to look at this document very closely. We've put our best effort forward. Thanks to Rick Mom and John Landy and many other people, I think we have a very solid document that addresses all of the topics that were discussed. But we also don't foolishly step forward and say that it's perfect and then we expect everybody to sign it as written. We think we look forward to that input that comes along. And I'll say to the ratepayers of Des Moines Waterworks, we worked very hard to look out for the best interest of our ratepayers. For over 100 years, the people of Des Moines and the people we serve here at Des Moines Waterworks have invested in what I believe is one of the best water utilities in the country. We've been innovative. We've done our best to serve the region as best we could. We fight and continue to fight increasing challenges with climate change and other things. There's so much to be proud of, but the one thing that kept all of us at the table, and I know all of my fellow board members agree with this, is the number one thing that we needed to do was protect the natural resource of water. And the best way to do that is to form a regional governance structure where all the people in the region come together and make those decisions together. We're not competing. We're not drawing, from a finite natural resource like water. We're not drawing from that source to serve our own needs, but we're joining in together to best be prepared for the future. So I think we do that. And at the end of the day, every community that signs onto this document is going to contribute. They're going to contribute assets if they have water production assets. They're going to contribute monetarily to this. The people of Des Moines will receive, well, first of all, they continue to own 40% of all the water assets in this region. But they also receive something for that 100 years of investment they've made that's going to go back into our water system, our distribution system here, to continue to make sure that we're prepared for the future, both economically and, as I say, from a climate change and other threat perspective. So I'm going to stop talking, but what I think it's, I just, in a way, what I said brings us back to where Joel started us, and that is, why did we do this? There are so many reasons why we did this, but the main reason is our ratepayers and the people of this region are best served when we come together and form a regional governance. And I have full confidence that this 2080 and 28F, even with some tweaking that I'm sure is going to happen over the next few months, is what's going to get us there. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud to vote to receive and file this today, and to continue my commitment and my fellow board members' commitment to getting this job done yet in 2022. So with that, Ted, is there anything you'd like to add about the process, those resolutions that Diane mentioned, or anything else?
Yes, Graham, a couple of points here. Once the board receives and files the draft, immediately following the board meeting today, we will be sending a copy of the draft agreement to all of our regional partners. We'll also be sending out a press release, and we'll be sending the document to the media so that everyone will have the opportunity to see the agreement and review it. We're hopeful that all of the communities in the metro will pass the resolution, the founding resolution, or the resolution of participation in this initial stage in the first quarter, so that they can all come to the table and be part of the discussion. A couple of things that we have on tap for in terms of engagement with the wholesale customers in the community. We have already scheduled 2 public input sessions specifically for Des Moines Waterworks direct retail customers. One on the 2nd of March, which is a Wednesday, 11 to 1 at the Central Library, and a second one on Thursday the 3rd at the East Side Library from 4 to 6. And so that will be the beginning of our public outreach and education process, where people can come and ask questions and provide input to the process. We also envision having a couple of review sessions where Des Moines Waterworks staff will take our regional partners through the agreement and our thinking, article by article, section by section. Here's what's in here. Here's what our thinking is. Not intended to be part of the negotiation, but just an overview of the agreement to bring everybody up to speed. And then we'll be requesting that everyone submit comments collectively so that we can have all of those together and begin the review process. So that's what we have in mind, Graham, for the process moving forward after today. I think we're ready to go.
And I appreciate that process, Ted. And I think you said this, but just to underline it and underscore that we're open to having public sessions, however those take. I know you've been invited, and others have been invited to speak to Polk County Taxpayers Association, for instance, and other groups. We're more than willing to have those discussions as well, and add in other meetings if we need them in the coming months. And so this is our starting point.
Absolutely.
The last thing I will say is people review this 28E and 28F. I rarely would suggest that anybody follow my lead on when it comes to governance or approach to things. But, I was very skeptical about the prospects for regionalization when I joined this board many years ago, that we could get to this point where we were today, and that the Des Moines ratepayers could be protected moving forward into a regional governance. And I think it's okay for everybody to review this 28E and 28F with some skepticism. Can we do this? Because only if we satisfy the skeptics will we be successful going forward. With much discussion and negotiation, I became convinced that we can follow a model that makes us stronger through regionalization. And so, take out your magnifying glass and look through this and look at this 28E and 28F and make it better if we can. But remember our goal here, and our goal is to protect the natural resource of water and protect the ratepayers financially. And I think you will find that this document, or something darn close to it, is what gets us there. So I appreciate everybody's work, and I appreciate the work that's yet to come, because some of the work may be harder than what we've done so far. Anybody else have anything to say or add to this discussion before we record the vote? All right, hearing none, I'll ask Michelle to record the vote.
Ashburner,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Moines.
Yes.
All right, thanks, everybody. That moves us back to kind of regular business, if you will. Item 3B is a request authorization to solicit bids for the 2022 tank painting, Tenney Standpipe, and Runnels Water Tower, and establish the date of the public hearing as the date of the April 2022 board meeting. Before I get the motion, Ted, is there anything you need to add to this?
Graham, just, do you want me to summarize the project here before we hear the motion?
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah.
Okay, yep. 2 water towers here in the system that we're considering, or we're looking for bids to paint those towers. This is a normal part of the maintenance process in the life cycle of a water tower or a standpipe. The Tenney standpipe is the one that's located out in front of Merle Hay Mall on Merle Hay Road. We're looking to paint that tower, and then also we're including a couple of alternates in this bid package. One is an alternate for painting the Runnels Water Tower. We provide full service, total service, as we call it, to the city of Runnels. We're looking for a bid as an alternate consideration to paint the Runnels Water Tower, and then also an equipment building that we have on one of our other water tower sites, that being a building at the Wilchinski Standpipe site, which is over on Park Avenue. The engineer's estimates are listed there for the projects. Just over $1 million for the Tenney Standpipe, just over 400,000 for the Runnels Tower, and 11,000 for the building. We would ask permission to solicit bids for those projects.
So I'm looking for a motion to authorize staff to solicit bids for the 2022 tank painting, Tenney Standpipe, and Runnels Water Tower project, and establish the date of the public hearing as the date of the April 2022 board meeting, and direct staff to publish notice as provided by law. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ted, are we changing the colors of these?
We are changing the color of the Tenney Standpipe, as with the Wilchinski Standpipe that we painted this year. That color is no longer available. Our proposal is to paint it the same color that we painted the Wilchinski Standpipe on Park Avenue, which is a color called Cumulus. It's a very bright, clean color.
I'm very hopeful when you get your new pickup that they offer it in Cumulus.
I hope that's the case, yes.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll ask Michelle to record the vote.
Ashburner,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item 3C, this is to request authorization to solicit bids for the 2022 water main replacement contract and establish the date of the public hearing as the date of the April 2022 board meeting. And again, with this one, before I get a motion, I'll have you explain it, Ted.
Graham, this is a project that actually combines a couple of pieces of work that are not close to each other or not close to any of the other work we have. And one of them is actually downtown on Water Street, from Court Avenue to MLK. We've got a main there with a history of breaks. It was on the agenda to be replaced this year, and unfortunately this winter it broke and it flooded the building at 100 Court. So we're interested in moving forward and getting that piece of main replaced. The other piece of pipe is on Northeast 22nd Street up in Polk County, and that's part of actually a DOT project. We need to do some work there to facilitate a project that they are doing. We don't always combine Des Moines and Polk County projects together in the same project, but in this case, because these two pieces of pipe were kind of off on their own, if you will, we thought it was appropriate to put them together. The funds for the Water Street construction will come from the Des Moines water main replacement budget. The funds from the Northeast 22nd Street project will come from the Polk County water main replacement. We can easily keep those separated within this contract. And so it just made sense to put them together, make it a little more logical size of contract by putting those two together. So we're looking for permission to bid this project. Engineer's estimate, just over $500,000 for the total package for work to be completed here this spring.
So I'm seeking a motion to authorize staff to solicit bids for the 2022 water main replacement contract, establish the date of the public hearing as the date of the April 2022 board meeting, and direct staff to publish notice as provided by law. Is there a motion to that effect?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Yes, and I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll ask Michelle to record the vote.
Ashburn,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
All right, moves us into item 3D, request authorization to solicit bids for the 2022 Des Moines Water Main Replacement Contract 1 and establish the date of the public hearing as the date of the April 2022 board meeting. Again, Ted, I turn it over to you.
Thanks, Graham. This project is an example of a handful of water mains that we're going to replace that are all located very close to one another. We've got some work here. Essentially, it's west of the zoo or west of Blank Golf Course down on the south side of town. We're actually going to be replacing the water main in Southwest 9th Street along the entire frontage of the zoo. And all of these mains are being replaced because of their age and their break history. You can see the chart there in the board memo that lists all of the streets where work will take place. A nice package of work, all very close together in that same neighborhood. The engineer's estimate for this project is just over $2 million, and we would ask the board for permission to bid the project.
So I'm seeking a motion to authorize staff to solicit bids for the 2022 Des Moines Water Main Replacement Contract 1 and establish the date of the public hearing as the date of the April 2022 board meeting and direct staff to publish notice as provided by law. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Yep, got it. Any comment or question on item 3D? Hearing none, I'll ask Michelle to record the vote.
Ashburn,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Great. Item 3E is to request authorization to execute the First Amendment to Chapter 2080 agreement between Des Moines Waterworks and the city of Waukee and Xenia Rural Water District for the Waukee-Xenia Joint System Facilities. And I will have you explain this one, Ted, before
Yeah.
we.
Thank you, Graham. This is a fairly simple change that we're asking the board to approve to an agreement between Des Moines Waterworks, Waukee, and Xenia, but our experience has showed us it's very important to have these things right. When this agreement was originally approved by the board, the line of demarcation between Xenia's sole ownership and joint ownership being the responsibility of Des Moines Waterworks for operation and maintenance, that line of demarcation was envisioned in a specific spot. But when Waukee actually hired the consultant and they placed their meter pit and made the connection, it changed the location of that line of demarcation by about 1,200 feet. That's an important distinction. We want to upgrade or update the agreement to make it clear where that point is, where that line of demarcation is, so we don't have issues in the future with no one locating 1,200 feet of pipe, or no one knowing who's going to fix it if it leaks, or no one knowing who can connect to it because it's unclear who owns it. So we're asking for a fairly simple change in the agreement. We're asking permission from the board. We're asking for authorization for execution of that small change.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve and authorize the chairperson to execute the First Amendment to the Chapter 2080 agreement between Des Moines Waterworks, the City of Waukee, and Xenia Rural Water District for the Waukee-Xenia Joint System Facilities. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions on item 3E? Hearing none, I'll ask Michelle to record the vote.
Ashburner,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Muns.
Yes.
All right, moving right along, item 3F is an amendment to 2080 agreement between the City of Des Moines, Iowa, and the Board of Waterworks Trustees of the City of Des Moines, Iowa, for the payment of pilot charges and maintenance of Fluor Drive medians and availability of city group benefit plans. This is a little complicated, Ted. I'll have you explain.
Yeah, Graham, that agreement that you just referenced is very complicated, but to be clear, the change that we're making affects only the maintenance on Fluor Drive, the median planters that we maintain, and it affects only the irrigation systems that are being installed as part of the Fluor Drive reconstruction. Now, Des Moines Waterworks for almost 20 years has had an agreement with the City of Des Moines to maintain the medians, the flower beds on Fluor Drive from the airport all the way to the MLK interchange. And as part of the Fluor Drive reconstruction, as it moves south all the way to McKinley in this first 2 or 3 or 4 phases, and then subsequently even beyond that, the city is going to install automatic irrigation in those median planters so that our staff or our contractors will not need to drive the water truck up and down Fluor Drive for a number of hours each day in the summertime to water those medians. They're paying all of the cost of that installation, but we are adding clarity to that agreement, the 2080 agreement with the city, which covers pilot and benefits and Fluor Drive. We're adding clarity to that agreement to define who is going to be responsible for doing what with those irrigation facilities. So bottom line is Des Moines Waterworks will be responsible for winterizing, startup in the spring, minor repairs of the system if there are sprinkler heads and riser pipes that don't work. We'll be responsible for operating and maintaining the equipment within the medians. The city of Des Moines will be responsible for the larger piping, the connections, the controllers, the pieces that are outside of the medians and deliver water to the medians. And we want to get that in the agreement. Good tight agreements make for good relations. And so we want to, we're asking authorization from the board to execute that amendment.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve and authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the amendment to 2080 agreement between the City of Des Moines, Iowa and the Board of Waterworks Trustees of the City of Des Moines, Iowa for the payment of pilot charges and maintenance of Fluor Drive medians and availability of city group benefit plans. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a
Second.
second, and I have a second. Any comments or questions on this item? I have one, Ted. Are these, this is irrigation system, is it metered?
It is metered, Graham, but yes. it's
I understand,
Yeah,
but it is metered.
it is metered,
Okay.
yes.
I have a question. The increase in cost for this year, is that just because we're still continuing to do new plantings?
You know, Andrea, the first year that we did this work with contracted labor, there were a number of the medians that didn't have plantings in them because they had been removed for the Fluor Drive construction. And so we are expanding the scope of the contractor's work. Now, one thing that we're hopeful for is that, you know, what it cost us last year included a lot of time spent watering the flowers. And we're hopeful that the new irrigation system will cut down on that. Maybe we won't see as much of an increase as is defined there, but that increase was based on, you know, a 50% expansion in the number of medians that will be planted this year compared to last year.
Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, I'll have Michelle record the vote for item 3F.
Ashburner,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Gillette,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Great. Well, that moves us to section 4, information items. I'm not sure there's anything to report with Planning and Finance and Audit Committee. I think they'll get into a regular meeting schedule, but if I'm wrong, speak up. Is there something someone needs to add on those two committees?
Thank you.
Nothing.
All right. We're about to resume our regularly scheduled programming, right? That's right. So the Bill Stowe Memorial Committee, as I mentioned last month, and I will continue to mention to you, there's quite a bit of activity going on. Obviously, nothing happens until this board approves anything with the Stowe Memorial Committee or process, but there are a number of people who have stepped forward to help with the planning, both to think about anything that might be constructed in the park, and then also the educational components of this. And so I'm very excited about the interest in this and hope to be bringing something for the board to look at in the next few months. The Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden continues to move forward and thrive. I think this spring we should consider having an event or a meeting or something of the Des Moines Waterworks Board of Trustees out at the garden, just so that people have an opportunity to see it. And I will get with the garden and see what we can work out. Des Moines Waterworks Park Foundation Board, Joel or Andrea, anything to add there?
I was unable to attend their last meeting, so I have nothing to add and would just point us to the attached meeting minutes unless Joel has something to add.
No, I had a conflict as well and was unable to attend.
Excellent. All right, with that, external affairs. I won't make any smart comments. I'll just give it to Jen to take forward.
Thank you. Hey, I would link on to what you were mentioning about the botanical garden, Graham. Kim Perez and I have been having discussions about actually having the board and some other folks, dignitaries out for a little event so that we can see the new recognition sign that's on the back terrace. So I think that's going to be fun. We're waiting for the weather to warm up a little bit. I'm actually doing a presentation there tomorrow, so Kim and I are going to walk out back and take a look at it. So that'll be pretty cool.
Take a look at the new art while you're there that was installed in honor of Tom Urban. It's really impressive.
Oh, cool. I will do that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing actually an in-service for their staff tomorrow. And Jessica Barnett's going to talk about the grounds, and then I'm going to talk about watersheds and so on. So that'll
Excellent.
be cool. Just a little bit of an add-on to what Ted was saying about all of the opportunities for the public to have their questions answered and provide information to them. In addition to all of the open houses and whatnot that Ted was mentioning, I would also say that we already have some meetings on the books, some civic and community group meetings, and those are rolling out over the next couple of months. And Ted and Amy will be covering those and speaking to all sorts of groups. So that's cool. We also are working with our advocacy strategies lobby team to schedule a couple of opportunities for our state legislators to come. Ted's going to do a presentation about the formation of Central Iowa Waterworks, and then they can ask questions. So those are just a couple of additional opportunities. Really, the project that I will highlight today is a happy one. And so you probably have seen maybe the new river signs that are popping up around the city. There's one that has gone up under the Raccoon River sign here, just up the street from us, that says drinking water source. Sue's nodding her head. So last year, the Department of Natural Resources hired the Conservation Learning Group from ISU Extension to study the effects of river signs. And so the study determined that where there are creek signs, people are twice as aware of the creek and its name. And in fact, there's evidence that perhaps they're willing to care more about the waterway and take some sort of action to improve and protect water quality. So that's pretty cool. So Steve Hopkins asked if we were interested in perhaps adding drinking water source signs. And so I have absolutely no knowledge of installing giant signs on posts. And so Mike McKernan stepped up to the plate and helped me figure that out. And we ordered signs, and they were relatively inexpensive for what we hope they'll do. And then the city of Des Moines graciously agreed to go out and install those on the existing signs for us. So it was pretty cool. And then I think Polk County is now, we're going to order a few more signs because they want to put them up at some intersections as well. So that's pretty cool. That's my happy report today. So any questions, happy to answer those. Thank you.
Sue's got one.
Jen, I had the question last night for my husband when he came home. Do you have any idea what these signs are all about? So my question to you is, are we going to do something in the press? Can we get the word out there? I mean, I think it would be a great news story, you know, and in the paper. So anyway, what are the plans to kind of make people aware of why we're doing that?
Great question. Thank you, Sue. Melissa can jump in too if she wishes, but we did a press release last Friday, and there was a piece on it on Channel 5 News last week. We have been featuring it on social media. We had on Instagram more posts or likes than we've ever had on Instagram posts. I think we had 80 some likes for that. And I said it was because I was in there, just joking. I just think people, whenever we post things about the river that we're advocating to protect our rivers, that really resonates with our customers and with our followers. Melissa, what would you like to add to that?
Just to echo Jen's words, it has been one of our most liked posts ever. So that's exciting news, especially with it being something positive. The Iowa Nutrient Collaborative met today and discussed it. So it's being talked about statewide as well. So that's exciting news. Happy to, send the press release on to a couple more reporters if that would be of interest to you, specific people, but we did send it out. We're hoping for a little bit more news than we got, but we did get the one news report.
I think it'd be great if you could send it out again and, try to do what we can to get the word out, because I think it brings a real awareness.
I thought of another one, Sue, actually, on our little nutrient collaborative, which we can go over another time, but there are some collaboratives who loved our idea so much that they're going to try it in their own collaboratives and put it in their newsletters in some other regions around the country. Also, it caught the attention of the American Waterworks Association, that and some other collaborative efforts we're doing. So they might be interested in actually writing a story about our coalition building and some of these projects in the journal. So that's pretty cool. Ted seemed happy about that when we were talking about it last week. So I think, and maybe we could get it in some more newsletters across the state. So I think there's other ways we could do that. Yes, I thought the question from your husband was going to be of a more technical nature, so I was nervous about it.
So there are more signs still going up. So it may be that we can get a more definitive date from the city of Des Moines on when that will happen. They need a bucket truck for some of the sign installation, and that might be a great opportunity for news crews to get out there and get photos of it live as well and footage at the time it's happening.
Well, it's wonderful. Thanks to both of you.
Jen,
And
one thing
I
that
definitely
want-
saw it in my social media feeds and maybe the one outlet that picked it up. So it reached my awareness, but I'll echo Sue, and maybe we redouble our efforts and try to get it out there more, because I think it's really cool.
It is cool. Jen, the one thing that, and I'll mention it here so that everybody's aware of it, but then I'll follow up with you. The Stowe Memorial group is having an additional discussion with the Lakeside Labs out of Okoboji. And we're very hopeful that this summer, Lakeside Labs will actually have a couple interns working on a project to think about educational components within Des Moines Waterworks Park, and obviously collaboration with the Citizens Water Academy. And those things are ongoing and in development, but that's one of the things I'm very excited about, is partnering with entities like Lakeside Labs and others to bring an emphasis and make an emphasis at Des Moines Waterworks on water and environmental education. So that conversation that I think in many ways you started, Jen, is continuing, and we'll have more to report on that.
Yeah, we're pretty cautiously, wildly excited about it, but I'm trying not to get out over my skis with it. So we actually, Pat Bodie on behalf of Icon Water Trails and maybe a couple people we're trying to break off people in groups and educate them about just the general idea, meeting with Mary Skopek from Lakeside Labs. And so there is a lot of interest. We're just trying to figure out how to grab a hold of all those parts. So it's pretty exciting. I agree with you.
Yep. So we'll keep circling back on that. Anything else for Jen? All right, Ted, CEO and General Manager's comments.
Just a couple of things, Graham. One, I want to add a little bit to the discussion about the signs and the outreach from AWWA Journal. It's not common for the Journal to reach out to someone and ask them to consider writing a piece. It's much more the other way, where people submit things and they consider whether they will publish them. It wasn't just about the signs either. It's kind of the whole water quality initiative that we have going on here with the cover crop seeder and the nutrient collaborative and the landowner boot camp and the whole thing. They're very impressed with that. Even the executive director of AWWA weighed in on that in an email to Jen saying, hey, yeah, I've heard about some of this going on. They've asked us to do a lunch and learn for their staff, the AWWA national staff, about kind of boots on the ground, turning conservation practices into reality, or turning environmental advocacy into reality with boots on the ground. So kudos to Jen especially, but the whole team that's been working on all of those water quality initiatives that we've highlighted for you over the last year or two. People are starting to notice. We'll be really excited when we start to notice huge improvements in water quality, but this is a great first step. And I think it's a sign that we're doing some creative things that are not necessarily being done in other places. So stay tuned for that. A couple of other things. Last month when we met, I notified the board that we are experiencing about one positive COVID test a day throughout about a 15-day period there in the middle of January. I'm happy to say that currently we have no one who is off because of a positive COVID test or an exposure. That's a big deal. We haven't been there for a while. I'm hopeful that things are really moving in the right direction there. We're anxiously awaiting the CDC's decision on indoor masking and where they're going to go with that. And I'm hopeful that we can get back to normal here, or more normal pretty quickly. So looking forward to that, keeping an eye out. And the last thing I want to share is related to our energy management program. We've shared updates with the board about our energy management program in the past. It was something that was started when Bill was here in earnest. But we've continued our efforts there, and we continue to improve our energy intensity, or reduce the amount of energy we use per million gallons of water that we produce, or per mile that we drive, or there are a number of measures, and it's all modeled very carefully. It's a Department of Energy program. You know that we've won some awards, but based on the analysis of our 2021 energy usage and the improvement over the modeled usage from pre-energy management conditions, since 2017, we have now saved over $1 million in energy costs compared to what we would have spent without implementation of the energy management program. And so huge kudos to the folks who have been involved in that over the years. Our current energy management team, Tony Knox, Kyle Danley, Nathan Casey, Ray Giconti, and Paul Sanford, mostly folks who work down in water production. Doug Oscarson is our energy consultant. He's a retiree who still does that for us a day or two a week. But that's meaningful savings, over $1 million in that period of time. So that's what I have today, Graham.
All right. I'm just noting, there's a Melissa put in the comment there about an article in the journal AWWA. So if you'll see that in your comments. That is really it for our meeting. I will say that we don't have to have any decision now. I'm looking forward to getting back to meeting in person at some point. And I think if COVID numbers continue to come down, we should think about that. So let's all keep an eye on that and see if maybe we can see each other in person in March. But as I say, I don't think we have to make a decision on that today. And I just want to circle back to where we began today's meeting, and so much work and effort went into getting us to the point where we could release the 28E, 28F today. And I am appreciative of everybody's efforts on this, and tolerance. I mean, it's been a burdensome task. And Ted, you've done a nice job of leading us through it, but you certainly didn't do it alone. I mean, you have a great staff with Jen and Melissa and Rick and John Landy as our counsel, and the list goes on and on. But really good work has been done to get us to this point. So I think we should be proud of that. And Rick just popped up on my screen. Rick, you haven't said a thing in this meeting. Is there anything you'd like to add before we adjourn?
I would, Graham. I would like to just say and note for anybody who's outside the organization who may be seeing this, that our board is a volunteer board. And it, in normal times, provides tremendous volunteer public service. But with respect to the regionalization effort, the public service that has been provided is truly extraordinary and has involved countless additional hours of effort to allow the region to reach the point that it's reached, not to mention a tremendously visionary leadership. So I'm going to step outside my role as counsel and speak as a customer of the waterworks in the city of Des Moines, and express my profound gratitude to the board for the effort and the leadership that's been provided.
No, that's very kind of you, Rick. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the cause today? Ted, board?
Nothing from me, Graham.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will consider this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.